A desperate search is underway tonight in a rugged 8-square-mile area of the Caribou, 40 miles southeast of Williams Lake. 145 search and rescue volunteers are looking for 13-year-old Jeremy Morton, missing now for 5 days. Late this afternoon, fresh footprints made by Jeremy's running shoes were found, and the searchers remain confident that they will find the child alive.
The Caribou, 40 miles southeast of Williams Lake, has some of the toughest and most isolated terrain in BC. It's in these thickly wooded, undulating hills, covered with treacherous marshes, that a frail 13-year-old boy has been missing for 5 days. Jeremy Morton was out riding with his 2 cousins at his grandmother's ranch near this lake early Thursday morning. Search coordinator John Delves describes what happened next.
The other 2 kids said we're getting too far into the bush, and they turned back, trying to get him to turn back. He carried on, says, I'm going to catch the horses, and hasn't been seen from since.
Now, you have found his horse?
We have found his horse.
How far away from the ranch was that?
Approximately 8 miles. It's on the other side of the road from where we're at right now.
Is there any sign that the horse had had an accident?
No. The horse was in good shape.
Now, near the horse, you found some footprints?
We've found footprints, and we've been tracking them down.
A Canadian Armed Forces search and rescue helicopter, along with more than 30 Armed Forces personnel, has joined the search, in addition to other private helicopters and planes. On the ground, 30 horses owned by nearby ranchers are taking part in the search.
We've been riding about 10 or 11 hours a day, and it's heavy bush, all sorts of different kinds of bush, and the 4 of us have been together for the last couple of days, and we've been sort of spreading out within voice distance and doing grids through country that a lot of people on foot can't handle.
145 people are combing the bush, including Jeremy Morton's mother and other members of his family. They've been sweeping the area on horseback from dawn to dusk, ever since the boy disappeared.
Look for where you'd be sleeping, that sort of thing.
Yeah, when I came through there, I saw a few bedded areas, but it's hard to tell whether they're game or...
Yeah. Okay, well, you guys go in the 6th.
Okay.
Last summer, he wandered around with a little survival book. He knew all kinds of things about the bush. He'd come home for dinner and he'd say, I know that you're supposed to make a little mound of rocks in the road and narrow to point which way you've gone when you're lost. And he knows things like that.
Obviously, you're still optimistic that you'll find him.
Definitely, I'll never give up. I should be at work right now myself, and so should a lot of other people, but I'll never quit until we find him. And I expect to find him okay.
Hopes are fading tonight for 13-year-old Jeremy Morton, missing for 6 days in isolated bush 40 miles southeast of Williams Lake. 200 search and rescue workers, including Armed Forces personnel and volunteers from many surrounding communities, scoured the bush all day for the frail boy who vanished last Thursday while herding horses on his grandmother's ranch near Lac La Hache. But weather in the area deteriorated rapidly overnight, hampering rescuers and increasing concerns for the boy's safety.
Search and rescue volunteers huddle by a campfire at their emergency headquarters in the bush 40 miles southeast of Williams Lake to dry out their clothes, soaked by torrential rain that is now hampering their bid to find 13-year-old Jeremy Morton. And as Jeremy spent his 5th night in the bush in deteriorating weather conditions and cool temperatures, some of the earlier optimism that he would be found quickly began to fade.
Not to go yet.
You think so?
I think so.
But you think you'll find him?
I hope so. I really do.
Jeremy's mother, Heather Morton, draws strength from other members of her family. Her horse stands in the cold, waiting for one more search attempt before darkness falls. One veteran search and rescue volunteer who spent the day riding with Jeremy's mother is certain the boy is still alive.
There's enough air traffic going over, and the search area is being enlarged to the point that he knows he has to know somebody is searching for him.
So why do you think he's not making himself known?
It's a response reaction. It happens fairly common when people get lost. They evade their trackers. He read enough books that theoretically he could handle the situation, but it appears he's not. He hasn't left us any clues. He hasn't left us any direction pointers or piles of stones or anything, just occasional footprint, and of course, his pony prints.
Everything points to this kid being in here and moving around as we move around. Okay? What we were hoping to do is put one group here, one group here, a group here, this group moving across to there, that one to there.
The searchers change their tactics. and surround a square mile of bush for one final attempt to find Jeremy before nightfall. And, as always, Jeremy's mother is first into the bush.
A miracle today in the rugged forest land of the Caribou Country in central BC. Last Thursday, a frail youngster named Jeremy Morton disappeared while herding horses on his grandmother's ranch near Lac La Hache. The disappearance triggered a massive air and land search involving up to 200 people. They found the 13-year-old's horse, they found his footprints, but they found no trace of Jeremy. Last night, the searchers had almost given up hope. This morning, Jeremy walked out of the woods at a logging camp on Moffat Lake, 22 kilometers from the spot where he was last seen.
An emergency camp set up by the search and rescue teams was manned around the clock. People from nearby communities donated food and set up campfires to keep the 200 searchers going. For 6 days, they scoured hundreds of square miles of isolated caribou bush. Planes were brought in to comb the thick forests and dangerous marshes. It was becoming a long and frustrating search.
We got the best of equipment, the best people that we could have, and we're still not finding our person that we're looking for.
You're now widening the search area?
We are concentrating and expanding, and that's basically what we're doing.
Very, very frustrating.
Very frustrating right now.
Footprints believed to have been made by Jeremy were their only concrete clue. But throughout the search, Jeremy's mother never gave up, and today she was still searching on horseback in the bush when her son was found and whisked to hospital in Williams Lake by helicopter. Did you know there was a massive search going on for you?
No, I didn't. Not until today.
You never saw the helicopters? You didn't see any sign of any people?
I saw helicopters and I tried flagging them down, but none of them stopped.
You had no idea they were looking for you?
No.
What happened today?
Well, I was on a logging road, and I followed it down a hill, and there's some small trailers. So I stopped there, and there's a note on the door that said there wasn't going to be anybody home until a few hours. So I just hung around there, and then it started to get cold out, and it was getting dark. So I went inside one of the trailers and sat on the bed, and I fell asleep. And the next morning I woke up, and there were some people there, and they phoned the RCMP, and they brought me here.
What were your feelings when you saw your mother this morning?
I was happy.
I bet you were. Tell us, how did you survive in the bush for so long? How did you exist on food, for example?
Well, I just ate some wild strawberries and raspberries, and there was lots of water around.
So you had no problems as far as that was concerned. But how about your clothing? You were very badly dressed, weren't you, in just a light shirt and rugby pants?
Mm-hmm.
Was it very cold?
Oh, yeah, it was. It rained pretty well every night except last night. So I just had to find a spot under a tree.
And you kept fairly dry?
No.
You got soaked?
Yeah, I did. So in the morning I had to jog around and warm up, and then I just dried out.
What was your worst moment?
I think the first night.
Why?
Because then I knew that I was lost, and I didn't know how long I was going to be lost for.
You seem to zigzag around quite a bit by the tracks you made that the searchers found. Were you aware of that, or were you trying to follow a set pattern?
I was trying to follow a pattern, yes.
But you got completely and utterly lost?
Yes.
Heather, I know there are no words that anyone can say to describe your relief. Can you try?
It's like the whole thing was a bad dream, and I'm awake now. I'm awake, and the bad dream is over.
During the last 6 days, did you sleep at all?
Not really. I dozed a bit sometimes, and I took a friend gave me a sleeping pill a couple of nights, but that wasn't like real sleep. It was sort of like being frozen for a couple of hours, and then.
You were out there from, 5 a.m. in the morning until?
Dark.
9:30 or 10 o'clock at night?
Most days, yes.
Did you ever, in your heart, think that Jeremy might not have made it?
If I had thought that for 1 minute, I would have gone crazy. The thing that kept me going was that I knew Jeremy was out there somewhere, and I had to help find him. And as long as I was looking, and I had to look for him, or I would have gone crazy.